Good evening, Rockdale County, and welcome to the midweek report with your host, Larry Cox. Hey, tonight we have a very special guest that's joining us. We have Senator Tyler Harper, and he's running for Agricultural Commissioner, and I am going to bring him on now. Hey, Tyler, nice to have you here.
Hey, Larry. Good to be with you. Thank you for having us on, and just great to join you and just have a conversation about what's going on in our race and what we're looking to do. But appreciate being with you, Larry. Thank you for having us with you.
Oh, you're welcome, Tyler. I mean, like let you know, a lot of times we don't the live audiences like, but we get a lot of views after the fact because a lot of people watch the show after. Just to let you know,
Yes, sir.
The live audience not be think. Trust me, you'll get the views will happen afterwards. People like watching this show after the fact. So
all good.
So what I'm going to do here. So what I want to do here tonight is start this out. Okay, got a big question for you. Who is Tyler Harper, and why does he want to be our agricultural commissioner?
Well, quite simply put, Tyler Harper, I'm just a small town South Georgia farm boy, grew up on a family farm and been involved in agriculture in some way my entire life. For 7 generations, my family has been involved in agriculture here in South Georgia. And, simply put, agriculture is who I am, and what I'm about. I live and breathe it every day in my entire life. And and the other thing is look, agriculture is way more than a job. And you especially when you're involved in the industry and you grow up in it like I have, you learn that, and it's really a way of life. It's more than a job. It's definitely a way of life, and has been for me and my family for a long time. And if it wasn't for agriculture, I wouldn't have had the successes that I've had for a number of years. But growing up on the family farm through 4-H and FFAs, I had an ag education, and from going from there to getting an education at ABAC, Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, have an associate's degree from there, to the University of Georgia, have a agricultural engineering degree from UGA, to opportunities I had for working with U.S. Senator Saxby Chambliss. Was actually with him at lunch today and had a great visit down in Moultrie. And that's really where I got bit by the bug when I did a fellowship for Senator Chambliss on working on ag policy in his office. But from that to going back to the family farm and, getting involved in different things. I'm past president of the Georgia Young Farmers Association, was pleasure of mine to serve on that state board for 10 years and the largest state association, Young Farmer Association in the country here in Georgia, and was pleased to lead that organization. And for the last 10 years, it's been an honor to represent South Central Georgia and Southeast Georgia, working every day to fight for our part of the state, fight for agriculture, to fight for the issues that are important to rural Georgia, and ensure that farmers and producers and consumers alike have the things that they need to be successful in our state. And, I think all of that has set up a good foundation for me to serve as the next commissioner of agriculture. And, quite simply put, like I said earlier, ag is what I am, who I am, what I'm about. And I want to be the next ag commissioner because I want to continue fighting for our state's number one industry. I want to ensure that we continue to have the resources we need to be successful. I believe I have the foundation and the background to do that. And I look forward to the opportunity of serving as our next commissioner of agriculture, and hope to earn everybody's support in making that happen.
Well, you made a comment now, and that actually segues into a question. You made the comment, agriculture,
Yes,
number one business. So, how important is agriculture economy, Tyler?
It is significantly important to our state's economy. It's the number one industry in our state. It's the number one economic engine in our state. It's a $70 billion industry in Georgia. Over 350,000 jobs are involved in agriculture. That's about 1 in 7. We produce half the nation's peanuts right here in our state. We're the number one state when it comes to poultry production, peanut production, forestry, in timber, pecans or pecans, whichever way. It depends on the prices, depending upon how you say it. But we're a significant player in a lot of different other areas in agriculture. So not an important player when it comes to agriculture and the economy. That goes. I think that leads into why it's so important to our state. It's the backbone of our state's economy. Agriculture is the reason our state's been so successful. I tell folks all the time, agriculture success in Georgia is our state. I continue to ensure that we're investing in that industry to allow agriculture to be successful, because agriculture success, I think it makes it harder for our state to continue to be successful. But it is the backbone of our economy, plays a significant role in our state with a lot of jobs tied to it, and we are a significant player in a lot of particular industries. And even though we're not number one in a lot of areas, we still have a tremendous input and influence in the cotton markets. And blueberries, we're number one in blueberry production here in the state of Georgia too, and is so significant in this state. But agriculture can play in what we do, and that's part of what we've been doing traveling the state, is helping tell that story. So important to our state, and the fact that it is our number one industry is why people should care about who the next commissioner of agriculture is. The importance of this industry to our state, I think, leads into the fact that it's important that we know who the ag commissioner is, and that we understand that they have the background and the experience and the knowledge needed to lead this industry, to continue leading it forward, and just pick up the reins where Commissioner Black is leading off, and take it into the next generation. And I look forward to the opportunity to do that.
Well, you've talked just now about that, and you've mentioned being a seventh generation farmer. So, what do you believe that being a seventh generation farmer, how does that prepare you to be the agriculture commissioner with that experience and that farming background?
I mean, I give you the insight you need to serve in that capacity, in that role, because in my own farm, in my own operation, I industries facing every single day, because I'm living it and I'm breathing it. I know what it's like to be involved in agriculture. Like I said, I deal with those issues, fertilizer prices to high fuel prices, to the input costs that we're dealing with, the inflation that we're dealing with in the ag community, to the feed cost, among other things. I have firsthand experience in those issues, and understand what every other producer and all the folks in the ag community across our state are dealing with. And I think you need that background. I think you need that experience, because when you want to lead an industry so important to our state, you need to have on the ground, boots on the ground, boots in the pasture kind of knowledge, and timber and beef cattle operation, and those things that growing up in this industry, growing up with my grandparents and my parents, riding in with them at a young age, checking cattle with my grandfather, and riding a tobacco transplanter, among other things. Those are things that as a young boy molded me into what I am today, and has allowed me to be so successful. And if it wasn't for that background and that experience, like I said earlier, agriculture's allowed me and my family to be successful, and I'm proud to be involved in this industry. I'm proud of the industry that it is. And as I said earlier too, it's more than a job for folks that are involved in this industry. It's been more than a job for me. It's definitely a way of life. And I think having that background, having that experience, definitely prepares you to be the next ag commissioner, because you understand the issues that we're facing in the ag community every day. You understand what our producers across this state are dealing with in terms of the decisions they're having. You don't have to have training wheels when you get in that office and get started come January, because you know what the issues are, and know how to work toward the solutions to solve those problems. Having that firsthand experience and having that firsthand knowledge, and I got a record of results to build on that from my experience. Not only my background and educational experience that I have, but also being involved in things like Farm Bureau and the Georgia Agribusiness Council, and Georgia Cattlemen's and being the president of the Georgia Young Farmers Association, among other groups that, those are things that are important to understand this industry and understand what the needs are and understand how we can continue. And I think I'll look forward to the opportunity to doing that come January, because we're going to be able to hit the ground running on day one. Because we're going to be able to go to work on day one. We don't have to have training wheels to get our feet off the ground, because our feet are going to be on the ground. Our boots are going to be on the ground. Our boots are going to be in the fields. Our boots are going to be in the pastures, and we're going to ensure that our farmers and producers have the resources they need to be successful, and our number one industry continues to be successful. And I look forward to that opportunity as the next ag commissioner.
So, listening to you and doing a little bit of background, if I'm not mistaken, you and your family have an active farm right now. Why don't you tell us about that operation and what you guys grow?
Yes, sir. So we do, and it's been an active farm for a long time. Matter of fact, I have peanuts right now on the same piece of dirt that has been farmed or tilled by a member of my family for 125 years. And I'm proud of that. When you get to thinking about it, my great grandparents who started tilling that dirt many, many years ago, over 100 years ago, even up to my grandfather, because my grandfather has told me numerous stories of being behind a mule with a plow, and they farmed that piece of dirt with a mule and a plow. And here we are today with the technological advancements that we have. I'm tilling that same piece of dirt with a tractor, more importantly with a cab, with a GPS system. I can set that GPS and let the tractor do the work, and but most importantly, an air conditioner. They didn't have that back then.
How far in South Georgia are you, Tyler?
So I am, from Osceola, Georgia, Irwin County is my home, near Tifton, Georgia. So we're about 20 miles. Osceola is about 20 miles east of Tifton. So that kind of puts it in perspective on the map, Central Georgia.
I know exactly. I mean, I actually do highway construction. I have worked on every inch of highway in the state of Georgia. I know exactly where you're from.
That's right. So it gets hot down here.
It does. So when you were mentioning the AC, I knew. That's why I wanted to point out where you were from. So
yes, sir. So that air conditioning is very important. I'll be honest with you. I'm quite proud of the fact that we've come a long way in technological advancements that I'm able to do to farm this same piece of dirt that's been in my family for a long time in a different way, but proud to still farm it to this day. And I have a peanut farm, cotton operation. We're in the timber business too, so we do a good bit in the forestry world, but also beef cattle operation. And that's what we do on our farm and what I'm proud to do every day and be involved in. And I'm just proud to be part of an industry that is so rewarding for a number of years. So for 7 generations, we've been in the same vicinity in South Georgia since about 1820. And for, like I said, for over 100 years, still tilling the same piece of dirt. So it's been a rewarding industry to my family. And in different ways, my family's been involved in a lot of different ways. My mom and dad grew up on big tobacco farms. My grandfather, swine operation at one time. He was also a crop duster back in the day, so he flew airplanes and sprayed crops back then. And so my family, you can trace our roots back. We're deeply involved and deeply rooted in this state and in this industry, and I'm proud just to carry on that legacy that my family did. Look forward to the opportunity to continue and to do that. Looking to find ways to ensure that the next generation, and for 125 years, that my family can continue to be successful in this industry. And that's part of the reason I'm running to be the ag commissioner, is because we need to continue to find ways and provide solutions to the problems that we face every day to allow this industry to be successful. And I look forward to that opportunity to do that, and carrying my experience to the ag commissioner's office will help us do that.
Well, let's talk about something about the ag commissioner's office. So, Tyler, you're going to run this race. You're going to win this election. What's your top priority going to be as ag commissioner?
Well, we're running a hard race. and we look forward to getting across the finish line on November 8th. At the end of the day, when we and I look forward to that opportunity to do that. I think there's a focus on one of which has been very successful under Commissioner Black. Like I said earlier, picking up the reins where he's going to leave off and just continuing to make direction and work with a dedicated group of over 500 employees that work for the Department of Agriculture, who do a phenomenal job every day in promoting, protecting our state's #1 industry. But I look forward to working with them and things like building on the Georgia Grown program, which Commissioner Black has made so successful. And I think we'll have some opportunities to continue to build and invest in that opportunity. And investing in Georgia Grown means, it gives us the opportunity to, as a producer, to put a stamp of where that product comes from and be it and raised it and made it right here in our state. And it gives us the ability to do that. But for the consumer, it gives the consumer the confidence in knowing that where they know where that grown product here in the state of Georgia, and it's safe and secure. And I think that's what's great about the Georgia Grown program, is it really does bring together the farm and the fork, so to speak. It's that farm to fork conversation that a lot of times it gets lost whenever there's that on the middle. We get removed from where those products are sourced from. The Georgia Grown program gives us that ability to connect the farm to the fork and connect the farmer to the consumer. And we're going to look and build on those opportunities to help tell agriculture's story in our state. It's a successful program, and look forward to doing that. Investing in the next generation, both in human capital as well as technological advancements, is so important and so vital to ensure that agriculture continues to be successful in our state. We passed the Agriculture Act for the K-5 classroom. So ag in Georgia elementary schools from kindergarten for the first time in our state. And it was a pilot program before, but now we've made that permanent. So now in Georgia, you can get an ag education from kindergarten through 12th grade on into adulthood. And Georgia's the first state to be able to do that in the country. And I'm proud of the fact that we're investing in that next generation and telling that story and starting it early, so our kids, our young men and women, understand the importance of our state's #1 industry, where their food comes from, and understand the basics of it. And I look forward to partnering with our technical college system. Commissioner Dozier and his team and what they do over there is phenomenal. And through agriculture for us to continue to partner, but also with our new chancellor, Sonny Perdue, for agriculture throughout his career, whether being governor or chancellor. I think it's going to give us some remarkable opportunities to partner together to ensure that we're investing in that next generation, to ensure that we have the workforce we need for agriculture going forward, and make sure that that folks know that there are opportunities in agriculture that I think a lot of people don't even know are available to. This will give us an opportunity to do that. Focusing obviously food safety and the supply chain and ensuring that food is safe and secure, the supply chain stays intact, are all important as well. And that's going to be part of our focus as the next commissioners, continuing to ensure that we have the most secure food supply in the world. And we're going to work to do that. But at the end of the day, something I don't think we talk about enough is the fact that agriculture it's a significant part of our national security. And I don't think the general American public in our state, I don't know that they really understand how important and how tied to our national security agriculture is. Because if we're not providing our food, our fiber, our shelter for ourselves here at home, that means we're relying on somebody else to do that for us. And at the end of the day, Larry, I don't know about you, but I don't want to rely on a foreign entity to provide our food, our fiber, our shelter for us. I want us to do it here at home, here at Georgia. And I want us to make sure that we're empowering that, because by doing that, we protect our American South. sovereignty, we protect our state sovereignty, we protect the American farmer and producer, and at the same time, we're protecting the consumer because we're providing them with the highest quality product at um, the best availability, and as I said, our safest, most abundant, most secure, cheapest food supply in the world is to ensure that we continue to empower our ag industry, because at the end of the day, when you control a nation's food supply, you can control that nation. And we've got to continue to ensure that we are our food security is paramount. It is important, and we've got to put it at the forefront. And that's part of what we're going to do as the next commissioner is focusing on the importance of agriculture as to our economy and the importance that it is to our nation's national security. And so that's just a small tidbit of things that we're looking forward to working on. There's a number of others that we could talk about, obviously, but look, at the end of the day, it all is tied back into making sure that it's successful, the industry successful, that our number one industry, because it's such an important, we've got to ensure that it continues to be successful. But also perspective, it's important that we focus on this industry to agriculture success will be our state success, and that's what we're going to work to do every day as the next commissioner.
Tyler, I really am glad you brought that national security thing up about agriculture, because we are seeing right now where America, for the first time a few years ago, was energy independent, and we saw what happened overnight when regulations were changed and we lost that independence. We were not any longer overnight. And you're in the same thing, as long as we stay food independent, that we can supply the food for this nation. You're right. It puts you heads and, just heads above other countries in security. And like I said, and we've just saw a recent example of an industry that was self-sufficient, or we were able to supply enough to meet our demands, and then with regulation, it just all dropped. So, Gary Black, I heard him about 6 or 7 years ago, and he was at a meeting, and Gary's one of my favorite. I love Gary Black, right? So,
Yes,
but
sir.
Gary, he was at this meeting, and he said, I've always got people coming to me, and they want to talk about this regulation, that regulation. He said, even in agriculture, you got regulation. He said, but this is what I like to tell my people. When they come to me with a regulation they want to do, I tell them, okay, if you want to add something away. So he said he did not want agriculture to become overburdened with regulation. So he said he felt if there was a regulation that they wanted to add, they needed to find something that they no longer needed and was obsolete and eliminate that. How do you feel about what Commissioner Black said, and how would you move forward with that sort of thinking?
No, I completely agree with Commissioner Black. I know that's been his policy, and I think my record over the last 10 years in the state legislature, I think, has shown that, I'm all about less regulation and less government, because at the end of the day, when you get government out of the way, business and industry is able to thrive. And I see the role of the commissioner and the role of the department, even though it is a regulatory agency and there is roles and responsibilities to ensure that we keep our food safe and we keep supply chains moving and we do everything, because food safety is paramount. We want to ensure that when you go to the grocery store, that you can rest assured that product's going to be safe, because we've done our job at the department. But also we've got to partner with our businesses and our industries in our state to allow them to be successful. See this as a partnership. It's a horizontal relationship between industry across the state to ensure that we're working every day and part of that product is safe, and make sure the consumers are protected, and do what we're supposed to do in our role at the department. And I believe we'll continue to carry that torch forward and ensuring that, we're keeping the regulations as minimal as possible, but at the same time, we're doing what we have to do to ensure that the consumer is protected, that our forces, they need to be successful. And I think it's a great balance, but I think that balance is able to be attained. And I look forward to working to do that every day and carrying on the mantle Commissioner Black and the example that he set to be able to continue to do that. And I look forward to doing that as the next commissioner.
One of our listeners, actually one of our contributors to the show, Alex McDonald, has a question. I'm going to put it up here real quick, and we're going to read it. It says, the Inflation Reduction Act imposes some new restrictions on farmers in the name of climate change. Do you plan on abiding by those regulations if you were our agriculture commissioner, or should we declare ourselves an agriculture sanctuary state?
Well, I will tell you just first and foremost, the Inflation Reduction Act should probably be called the Inflation Production Act. Just to be honest, it's something. It is not doing it will not do the job that I think that it is being alluded to do. The name is a very misleading, to say the least, and the fact that we've added 87,000 new IRS agents, among other things. And when you look at it from an agriculture, there's a lot of issues and a lot of things that were implemented and put into place, like $8 billion to tell cattle farmers how to feed cattle and study methane emissions, and among other things, and just billions and hundreds of billions of dollars in giveaways to corporate and corporate welfare, to green energy companies, among other things. And when you combine this with an energy policy that just doesn't work and isn't working for the American farmer, it's one of those things that I think is something that we've got to continue to fight against. And I think that's part of the role of the commissioner, is when issues and policies are passed, especially on the federal level, is to fight back against those things. And, you're going to have a fighter, no pun intended, since I graduated from the University of Georgia, but you got to have a bulldog in the room that's willing to go to bat and have a seat at the table and make sure that Georgia's voice is heard when it comes to issues that are important. The Inflation Production Act or Reduction Act, or whatever you want to call it, or it's WOTUS and the waters of the U.S. that the Obama administration put in, that the Trump administration rolled back, and now the Biden administration is trying to reinstate, or the death tax, or other things that can significantly hamper and significantly cause cultural industry and not allow us to be successful in agriculture. And these type of policies just don't understand the boots on the ground type of issues that we're faced with every day. And one of my favorite quotes is by President Dwight Eisenhower. And, a lot of people remember this one, but it speaks very true today, more so than it ever has. And it's, farming is really easy when you're 1,000 miles away and your plow is a pencil. And that is so true. And, in agriculture, we've got to have, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. My background, my experience, my knowledge of this industry allows me to have that understanding to ensure that we're going to bat for our state, for our industry, to have the policies and the regulations in place that allow us to be successful. And we're going to fight against those every time we get the opportunity to. And we're going to work hard on behalf of Georgians, on behalf of Georgia producers, Georgia families, and Georgia consumers, continues to be successful. And we're going to work to ensure that that's the case every day as the next commissioner. And I'll look forward to opportunities we're going to have to do that every day in fighting against these type of policies that just don't make sense. Congressional delegation that allows us to move policies forward that actually does make sense. And I hope to work with our next U.S. Senator Herschel Walker, among others, inside of them, and some of our Republican members will delegate help us be successful. And forward to doing what I can as the commissioner and fighting it back against successful. It doesn't allow the number one industry to be successful.
Well, Tyler, one of the things, we're going to bring it up because I don't think we've talked about this yet, is why I think I like your experience and your background. I love your background in the farming. That's a no-brainer. Farming. Tyler Harper knows farming. It's just there. But the one thing I want to make sure these people also know what Tyler Harper knows. Tyler Harper knows legislation. Tyler Harper has been a Georgia state senator for 10 years. You were actually the youngest state senator ever elected, Tyler, at 26 years old. You have served South Georgia, Central Georgia for 10 years in the state Senate. So you know the legislative process. So that gives you a big hand. Not only do you know farming, agriculture, that side of the game, but you know the political side of the game, Tyler, which I think will give you a big advantage as being the ag commissioner, because you can see these sucker punches coming because you sit in that seat and you saw this legislation be drafted before, so you know how to deal with these guys. So do you think that not only no farming but no politics and no legislation, that's going to be an advantage of being your big advantage of being the ag commissioner?
Larry, it is definitely a huge advantage in serving in the legislature because you get to know the process, understand how issues are addressed, and not only that, being serving in the legislature allowed me the opportunity for the last 10 years to build relationships. And at the end of the day, a lot of what we're going to work to do as the next commissioner, you've got to have those relationships under the gold dome to be successful because the legislature, the General Assembly is who will pass the budget that I look forward to overseeing as the next ag commissioner. And when you need those resources for your department to do what you need to do, you've got to have those relationships in place to be able to garner those resources that you may need to address those things. And without those relationships in the legislature, without the relationships under the gold dome, it makes it a lot more difficult to be able to do that. And not only that, I've being a legislator, I understand what it's like to be in those shoes. I know what it's like to sit behind, come and ask for something for the department or ask for legislation to help agriculture or rural Georgia. I understand what I'm asking my colleagues to do because I've sat in their seat. I've sat in their shoe. I've been in their shoes. I know what it's like to press a red and green button. I understand those issues and understand how the committee process works. And that is very vital, I think, in regardless of where you serve, especially when you're serving in state government in some way. When you're leading an agency like that, it is important that you understand how the legislative process works, because at the end of the day, you've got to have the success of the legislature to allow you to be successful as the commissioner. And I think my background and experience in serving in the legislature and the fact that I feel like I've been a very successful legislator at that for the last 10 years. It started very young. As you said, I was the youngest senator elected in our state's history at 26 years of age. And I'm proud of that, but I'm also proud of the success that I've had for the last 10 years. And, I think that success under the gold dome will turn into my success as being the next commissioner, and also the relationships that I've built will allow us to be successful as the next commissioner as well. And I look forward to taking all of that experience and all of that background and that foundational knowledge that I have as the next commissioner. And I believe because of all of that, we'll be able to serve our state well and ensure that the department is able to serve its level because of all of that and because of the experience that I have, not only from the farm and agriculture, but also in the legislature as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your legislative service. Because you're right. You have been there 10 years. What do you consider to be your biggest success as a legislator in that 10-year time period, Tyler? What do you think your biggest success has been being there serving your district?
I think for me, the biggest successful piece of legislation or single thing that more of the fact that I think what we've done over focusing on rural Georgia and protecting the district that I represent is rural Georgia, and fighting for our number one industry, agriculture, like doing things like we did this past session and passing the Freedom to Farm Act, the Right to Farm Act, and ensuring that agriculture continues to be protected for generations to come. Doing things like passing and labeling law, so to speak, when it comes to meat, so that when the consumer goes to the grocery store, they know what they're buying, and that they understand what they're buying. And working and fight for rural broadband, that's been so vital over the last decade, and putting the resources in and the policy sure that rural broadband access is going on in agriculture, and in rural Georgia especially. Agriculture operations not necessarily located near the city center, located typically miles away from the city center. And agriculture is more of a global economy today than it ever has been, and investing in rural broadband allows our ag industry to continue to be successful, because ensure that they have access to that global marketplace, and through rural broadband be able to make that happen. But I think just in general, working every day to promote and protect our number one industry, whether that's through budget funding or legislation we've passed, our industry to be successful, our rural Georgia to be successful. I think that's all part of being the commissioner as well. Is the primary responsibility of the ag commissioner is promoting one industry, allowing it to have the resources it needs to be. A record of results that proves that I've been able to do that for the last 10 years as a state legislator. And that same mindset, the same success in serving our state as the next agriculture commissioner.
Well, let me ask, so, you've had successes. So what do you think is the one thing that you were not successful to be able to get accomplished as a legislator, but you would like to see get accomplished? And it may be even something that you can spearhead as agriculture commissioner.
So, look, I've already kind of mentioned it a little bit, broadband, but, we had the final bill, and one of the things that we're going to continue to focus on, like I said earlier, how important our state is. We're going to focus on continuing to support those efforts with the legislature, and support and encourage those continued investments in rural broadband. But I think for me, one thing that I'm leaving kind of unfinished is just that final build out of rural broadband. But I look forward to opportunities I'm going to have as the commissioner to help with that, to continue to help that build out, to continue to ensure that rural broadband. We're getting there through the work of our EMCs across the state, and other investments made by other to ensure that we're making that happen, Georgia. And I'm proud of the progress that we've made, but I look forward to the final opportunity of making that happen. Always equate the broadband issue to the electrification back in the 30s. Rural issue 100 years ago, a similar issue today as electrification was just over 100 years ago. And so we've got to continue those investments to ensure that rural Georgia continues to prosper. And, being the commissioner, I think I'll have the opportunity to kind of have a little bit of encouragement in the area, to encourage our colleagues to continue to invest in that, because that investment will ensure that agriculture continues to be successful. And with the advancements in technology that we've seen, it is more imperative today, more than it ever has been, that we have that broadband access in rural Georgia, because agriculture has become more technologically advanced than it ever has been. There's thousands of lines of code and tractors. Those advancements in technology of agriculture and allowing it to be successful. But if we don't have it, we'll allow that technology to take hold, industry to continue to thrive or be successful. So, rural broadband, I can think of some other things, but that's probably the one that I think will make the largest impact, one of the largest impacts in rural Georgia as we move forward.
Well, I'll tell you, I used to work for it, and we sold equipment, and wasn't farm equipment, but there were some John Deere engines in these equipment. I'll never forget the first time I sold one of these pieces of equipment. We were out on the highway, Tyler, and the tech comes out there and he throws out a laptop, plugs it into this into this machine, and we have to have an internet connection because he was going to do a download of some different software. So that kind of stuff is relevant. I mean, you've got this equipment that you're out there in the middle of nowhere, like you just mentioned. It's not near the nearest city, and you might need that internet connection because you're going to need to download some stuff, and you're going to have to get it off the web. So, I mean, that's
That's right.
I understand it. I understand it. So, hey, I want to end tonight's interview on a little bit of a note thing. So, what I understand is you talked a little bit earlier about driving around on that tractor with your family and stuff.
Yeah.
But I understand your grandfather taught you how to drive a tractor. So why don't you tell
He
us a
did.
little bit about that story and your grandfather and how you learned to drive a tractor?
So, growing up in rural Georgia, growing up on the family farm, little kid, I grew up playing with tractors in my mom and dad's living room on their carpet. I turned their carpet into a farm every time I got an opportunity as a little boy. And those are having those little toy tractors around on dad's house. The thing that's always as I drive the real thing. And you get to ride it with your granddad or whoever else that you might have an opportunity with. But if there always comes that day when you finally get the opportunity to take the wheel yourself and take over the track. My dad did teach me how to drive on a Massey Ferguson 135 tractor, and that's the first tractor I learned how to drive on. And we still have that tractor today. It still is under the shed at the farm, and we still use them. But every time I see that tractor, I know that's where I learned and got my start, so to speak, on the farm. And but I learned real quick. My granddaddy did teach me how to drive that tractor, but it wasn't for me to go learn right fast like that. As soon as he got comfortable enough myself, he put me to plow in the garden. So, so to speak, on the farm as a young kid. So, those are experiences you don't forget, and those are things that make you who you are. And about farm values on the campaign, growing up in this industry, growing up in this environment, learning things like that, and learning how to drive on a 135 Massey Ferguson and plow in the garden, among other things. Those values really build who you are, and from hard work to dedication to commitment to integrity, the importance of family and reliance on those things really build you as a person. And those farm values have built who I am. And part of those farm values I learned from simply learning how to drive a tractor from my grandfather. And I look forward to taking those farm values and that experience and that just foundational knowledge that you in a seventh generation Georgia farmer, learning from taking that experience to the ag commissioner's office and do that. And I look forward to utilizing those farms every day as our state's number one industry, and continue to allow our state to prosper and ensure that it's the best place to live, work, and raise a family.
Well, our friend Alex McDonald has got a question. He wants to know, do you know the riddles from down in Tifton?
I do know the riddles in Tifton. Good folks.
So apparently
Yes,
Alex
sir.
knows the riddles too. So
he must do. But yeah, I hope.
do they have something to do with guns? Let me ask you, do the riddles have something to do with guns, Tyler?
No, not the but no, I do know the riddles and a good family and have been good friends for a long time.
Good, that's good. Well, I mean, Alex wanted to know that. So what I'm going to do now is give you an opportunity. Let's give you your few minutes in tonight. Tell people again who you are and why they need to vote for you, Tyler.
Well, thank you, Larry. Well, first off, Larry, thank you for having us on. I really appreciate the opportunity to join you this evening and all night. My name's Tyler Harper, and I'm a seventh generation farmer, grew up on a family farm and still till the same piece of dirt that's been in my family for 125 years. And, I think my background, my foundation, my experience, not only in the agricultural legislative arena, serving in the state Senate for the last 10 years, and working every day to ensuring our state's number one industry, working every day to producers, families, agribusinesses, and Georgians all to be successful and can be proud of the state in which we finally allow Georgia to continue to move in the right direction, and a Georgia that we can all be proud of, and quite what I'm about. And if give me agriculture commissioner, we're going to work every day to fight for our farmers, our producers, our consumers, and families all across Georgia to ensure that not only our number one industry is successful, but food safety and food security is paramount. When you go to from the grocery store, and rest assured that you got somebody looking after you every day. And we're going to work to do that as the next agriculture commissioner. And I look forward to the opportunity to serve in this state in that capacity. So, Larry, thank you for having us on. Great to have a conversation this evening.
Wait, asking if you'll just hang around, I'm going to turn you off here, but you'll still be in the green room.
Yes, sir.
And then I'm going to sign off, and then you and I'll do our exit thing. Okay, so hold on there one moment. So, guys, I want to thank y'all for allowing us to come on tonight, and thank you for listening to Tyler. He's a good guy, and he knows farming. So we need that kind of guy as agriculture commissioner, and I hope you guys will consider voting for Tyler, because I'm going to. So just let you know that I'm going to vote with Tyler because I think he's the right man for the job moving forward. And I'd like to, for all you guys in Rockdale County, do the same thing. Let's vote for Tyler Harper, and let's make him our next agriculture commissioner, and make sure that agriculture in Georgia is a national security issue. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be on here Sunday, and I'll tell you what we're going to do Sunday. You guys know what we like to do best. We like to bash the Board of Commission, bash the Board of Education, and hey, we're going to bash the city of Conyers too, because that's what we do. We bash incompetent governments. So tune in Sunday for the bashing. Talk to you guys later.